Hey, this is this, and this is gonna hopefully be my last Wii U E3 video talk. But I just wanted to get this out of the way because, well, I haven't really talked about it at all. I've been talking about that damn controller because, well, batshit crazy people like to make up shit or just bluntly lie about it. Take your pick. But anyways, this is just going to be on the whole console itself and some pretty stupid fucking rumors that I've been hearing lately. Like, the Wii U is going to have DirectX 11, which is not going to happen. I know. DirectX was on the fucking Sega Dreamcast, or at least some portion of it. But the thing was, is that the Dreamcast came out before the Xbox even came out. And before even the original Xbox was even thought to even come out. But after the Xbox came out, pretty much DirectX isn't allowed on any other desktop item at all, including gaming consoles. So everything's got to use OpenGL. There's really nothing else, or OpenGL SE, and there's really nothing else that can be used. And there are people, but the thing is that I'm hearing is that there are people saying like, "Oh, the Wii U is going to be like the PS3 with all of its crappy graphics if it's going to have the same drives." No, it's not. The main reason why the PS3 was such a fail is mainly its hardware is a complete fail in itself. Let me explain. The PlayStation 3 has it's a substandard GPU, which is pretty low. And the reason why they did that was they wanted to put all their graphical powers into the cell processor, which is another one of their problems, as well as the lack of RAM in certain areas. But the cell processor being the worst because its architecture and design is completely different than that of a PC. And so, when you're doing a cross converting game, games come out all fucked up on the PlayStation 3. Hopefully, if Sony comes up with the PlayStation 4, they'll come up with something a little bit more standard and something that can be, easily cross platformized. And you don't really have to look at the. And with the Nintendo Wii U, the Wii U is basically going to use the same CPU and GPU that's in the same set of families that the Xbox 360 comes from. So, all the, like the like the current Unreal Engine can be crossed over into the Wii U without really much of a problem, even though some people are saying, oh, it's having difficulties. No, it's not. And to understand a little bit more of this, all you have to do is go all the way back in time, like when Macs were like OS 7, OS 8, and OS 9, and OS 10 before they went Intel. And understand that before they, went Intel, they all had PowerPC processors, while normal PCs had Intel processors, which caused a, converting problem between video games between Macs and PCs, and of course some licensing problems as well, but that's a different story. But the main reason why games back then couldn't be so easily converted, and unlike today, now you can literally convert a PC game into a Mac port real easily thanks to something called Wine. But it was a lot more difficult because you had to go from one architecture into a completely different architecture, and just cross converting that game is a complete utter bitch. And of course, half the Mac games back then suffered from it horribly. I mean, and of course, there was Blizzard, who did a pretty good job with their end. But after Macs went Intel, then Wine suddenly started becoming widely used there. I think Wine was being used somewhat before, but what they were doing was tricking out the architecture program to think, oh, I'm on an Intel, when really they're on a PowerPC, which caused some latent issues, which is the same almost latent issues you see in the the PlayStation 3, and of course frame rate drops and graphical complete fuck ups. But now that Macs are all on Intel, which is about the on par with what PC gamers use. I mean, I know they're not using the latest greatest, but it's still within the same line of family. Cross converting and latency issues are pretty much a thing of the past. I mean, that's why we're now seeing EA making more games directly for Mac and just skipping the whole having somebody else do it for them, even though I think they are doing using trans gaming or just a wine wrapper, but it's real easy for them to use and less cost effective. And they don't have to, well, yeah, I put myself in that one. So the Wii U is going, even though it's going to be an OpenGL box, it will have almost identical hardware to what the PlayStation, I mean, not the PlayStation, I mean the Xbox 360 will have. So there shouldn't be any latency or any kind of problems converting between the two. Unlike the PlayStation 3, which has a large set of fucking problems, mainly to do with hardware and bizarre architectures. And of course, I think the price will be somewhere about 300 to maybe 350. 400 possibly. 450 is a little pushing it right there. I would go with maybe 350 because that's a more reasonable price. Uh, but the touchscreen really isn't going to be as expensive since they're going to be using a reactive touchscreen. And of course, they're using gyroscopes, which is now pretty cheap, as well as an accelerometer, which is not as expensive as it used to be. I mean, those two are so cheap that I'm surprised that Microsoft hasn't put them in their controllers. I mean, it's not going to raise the price of the controllers by much. Unless you're Sony, who decides to make their own gyroscoping device with no accelerometer. And the version that they created is, well, fucking broken. So much for 6-axis. Well, that's it. See how E3 goes.